Hello, welcome to the Author Studio. I'm Susan Tarnowski, the manager of the Edina Art Center, and with me today is Barbara Lavalure, who you will meet shortly. We're coming to you today from the Senior Center in Edina, and we'd like to talk to you a little bit about our new format for the Author Studio. The Author Studio has been sponsored by the Edina Art Center for many years. Originally, it was hosted by Colin Nelson, who interviewed authors from a variety of backgrounds and who wrote in a variety of genres. And over the years, it evolved to presentations by authors, sometimes published authors, sometimes newly published authors. And audience questions drove how the interviews progressed. That was a wonderful way for audiences to be involved in the author's thinking, the author's process, and the book itself. However, we have found that all of those are stories, not just the story the author has written, but the story the author has lived as they wrote the book and as they communicated their thoughts and ideas. And we decided that going back to an interviewer who would ask those kinds of questions and bring out all the stories that we're able to tell was really a very good idea. So that is how we're going to start today, and that is the role my colleague Barbara will play in this. I'd like to introduce her to you now and have her give a little background for what she has been doing with her life. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Susan. Thanks so much for having me, and I am so excited about this project, and I hope our viewers will be too.
I do too.
So my background is photojournalism. Mm-hmm. I took my first photograph with an Instamatic camera, a Kodak Instamatic, of President John F. Kennedy.
Oh my
back
goodness.
in 1963 in June. It was an amazing experience, and it really lit my fire. Mm-hmm. I then went to Morehead State College, as it was called, and I was the first person to major in mass communications at Morehead State.
Right.
Now, it did take me 9 years to get my 4-year degree because I worked my way through after the first year. Mm-hmm. And it provided me with an opportunity to work at a Pulitzer Prize winning newspaper, The Forum in Fargo, Moorhead, right. Where I worked for a while. And I have worked in various places. For example, the first newspaper that I worked at after graduating was as editor of Carib magazine in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Wow.
Now that was a very interesting gig. I have to tell you, I think I went to the beach once. I was working 7 days a week, and I found out that I was not only the editor, the writer, the photographer, and the layout person. I was it.
You were it.
I learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot. Moving on, I became chief photographer of the Daily News in Wapton and Breckenridge, which I loved. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I went on a fateful, life-altering trip to the Soviet Union, as it was called then. We were invited. I belonged to the National Federation of Press Women and the North Dakota Press Women. And we were invited by the Soviet press women to come to Moscow and Leningrad, as it was called then. And so we had a 10-day tour. And on that tour, I met someone, fell madly in love, and eventually moved to England. Now, my life goal in high school was to live in Europe for a while. Little did I know that it would end up being 20 years.
My goodness.
And interestingly enough, the last few years that we lived there, so I married and had 2 daughters in England, and then we moved to Germany. And the last few years in Germany, I freelanced for 7 German newspapers, 6 dailies and 1 weekly. It was just a a job of a lifetime.
What
It
an
was
outstanding
fantastic, but especially when you consider I didn't speak a word of German when I went there. So
And were you writing in German for these?
I did. I did. I wrote in terribly incorrect grammatically German, and my editors knew what I was talking about.
That's
because, like in English, when I write like I talk. Some people do, some people don't, but I write like I talk, and so it has a flow to it. And then so my editors just knew what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So after 20 years, I came back to the United States, and I've done a variety of different things, worked for different places. But I've always written and taken photographs. And the last, I would say 10 years after I retired, but I don't call myself retired, I call myself refired. So the last 10 years, I've had a lot of one-woman photo shows in Minnesota, here in Edina, in St. Paul, in Iowa, in North Dakota. And I have some photographs in a show right now in Wapton that's closing at the end of the month.
That's wonderful.
So, but I have been for the last 3 years working on writing my memoir, which brings us more to what we want to discuss today. I do have to say, give a shout out to my husband, Arnie Bigby, who is very active in this community in terms of human rights and affordable housing, and I'm so proud of his work too.
That's great.
So the other thing I wanted to add was I was on the Arts and Culture Commission for 6 years, along with Colin Nelson, I might add, and I was chair of public art for several years as well, and so enjoyed that.
Barbara, I see that some of your published works are here. Are you also a reader? Are you a voracious reader?
I am. I actually am. After my retirement, I started publishing, self-publishing photo books. Yeah. So I've done 20 photo books, and you can see them. Most of them are hardcover, but I also did a few small ones, like the little Stinker and Zozo about my granddogs. My two daughters, my one daughter lives in Barcelona, and my daughter, who lives here in the metro area, has 2 dogs, and along with my husband, we have 3 grandchildren. So I did that for a Christmas present.
So why is this project interesting to you at this stage?
Oh, wow. I love talking to people. I'm definitely a people person, and I particularly love talking to artists, meeting new artists. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. There's always something to talk about.
Creative people are fun to speak with.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Writers, authors, artists, they are always, in my opinion, very interesting. And I actually looked this up yesterday. How many published authors are there in Minnesota?
Oh, good question.
And yes, and the statistics are from 2019. However, we have almost 50,000. Not in Minnesota, in the United States. I couldn't find the stats for Minnesota, but in the United States, almost 50,000 people are published authors. And that doesn't sound like very many, but I was really encouraged by the fact that 21% of those published authors make their living 100% from their
writing
books.
Isn't that great?
I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, so all part of the creative economy.
Exactly, exactly.
So as we do this, Barbara, what do you hope the community will take away from your interviewing new authors?
Well, first of all, I would hope that they get to know new authors, as well as have a peek inside of established authors who they may have read, yet I think that our take on speaking with authors might be a little bit different. I used to attend a lot of Colin's interviews at Author Studio when it was at the Edina Art Center. I loved them all, And a lot of that conversation was about the books, because that too is very interesting. I think that our viewers are either established writers themselves, or would love to, or are in the process of writing something, even if it's a memoir for their family.
Right.
And I think that they are going to be very interested in learning how these writers do what they do.
So what kind of questions would you ask our authors in our
Oh my
upcoming
gosh.
series?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I will never run out of questions to ask. As someone who's spent the last 55 years asking questions, I love asking questions. And I will never run out. But I think that I'm interested in finding out how they write. Do they write on a computer, an old typewriter, by hand, as some people are wont to do in cafes in St. Paul? And,
Or diners.
Yes, that too. I think that people are also going to be interested in how people choose what they're going to write about, especially the people who are writing. Well, not all people, all authors. Because there are different genres. In fact, we have probably fiction is the most popular, but there's also nonfiction, drama, there's poetry and folklore. And in terms of the genres, there's also, and I have to refer to my notes here, 6 genres of writing, and they are descriptive, expository, persuasive, narrative, technical, and poetic.
Yeah.
And I think we were recently, poetry has been brought to the national attention by Amanda Gorman, who is our new youth poet laureate. But back to the questions, and your question about my questions. I think that we would also love to hear from viewers what questions they would like to ask the authors.
Sure.
That would be very cool.
And we will give them a way to do that as we
Absolutely.
finish off our interview today.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great. So do you think that right now, at this time of our history, where we have been with the last year, do you think that written and spoken word has a real strong place in our communities?
Oh, absolutely. I think words and choosing the right words and speaking well is very, very important.
Yeah.
Actually, when it comes down to it, speaking well, being able to articulate, has an impact on the job that you get, on the friends that you make, on the company you keep, even on the things that you do socially, and I would assert the books you read.
Absolutely. Well, and I think the authors that we have had in the past have had a variety of reasons for writing, whether it's a message they need to get out, or whether it's experiences they have had with their children, with their families, with friends that are pertinent to other people. And I think coming up, we will see some of those same kinds of differences in the people we get to interview.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about telling stories. What do you find intriguing about a story?
You know, this reminds me, even the word storytelling reminds me that of a time I went to Mallard Island, which is in Rainy Lake, and my sister had organized a week, a group of women, 9 women, and they were looking for one more person. And the title of the week was Storytellers and Drummers. Now, obviously there's a very big, or not obviously, but I'm just sharing that in Mallard Island has a huge connection with the Native American culture. And it's so funny because I said to Sharon, this is my late sister, I'm not a storyteller. And she said, Barbara, you've been telling stories for over 5 decades.
Yes.
You're a journalist. Of course you're a storyteller. And that just points to my narrow view at the time of what a storyteller is.
Right.
You know, I've got a native friend who just started in the last month to tape weekly storytellings on Facebook. And she is an author in her own right. She's 80, and she is an incredible storyteller. And not all of us are storytellers of that nature. And people who write books are storytellers. No matter what genre they're writing writing a story.
And part of what we're doing is helping people tell their stories.
Absolutely.
And helping other people hear those stories.
Yes.
So.
And I think that a lot of people, especially as they become wiser and age, if I might say, are looked to by their younger relatives to write down stories, because when they pass, their family sometimes loses names, relationships of their own history. And I believe that more and more people are very interested in their own family's history. I mean, there's programs on television about that.
Absolutely. Well, you know, let's talk a little bit about a couple of the authors we have coming up.
Yes.
And they represent 3 very different ways to use language and share stories. So next month we will have Zalar Stout, who has written about our gay history in 50 states. So we are looking forward, both of us, to reading that book. What do you know about that one so far, Barbara?
Well, I have to read it for a start. That will be a great experience, because the topic is of interest to me. And I understand, and I like what he's done in terms of taking it state by state and looking at the different struggles and successes and contributions that have been made state by state. That's going to be really, really interesting.
I think it will be too.
So I'm looking forward not only to reading the book, but also in meeting Mr. Stout.
Yeah. You know, he was scheduled for us during the pandemic year, and we had to cancel. So when I went back to re-engage him for this year, he said he has now speaking engagements all over the country around this book. So I think we're going to be very fortunate to have him with us in our studio.
Absolutely. And he has touched on a very hot topic.
And an important topic
that's
for
very
us.
Important and very much in the news, and I think that also makes
Things
it
that
interesting.
people will be curious about in many ways.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
We can always learn. And we do learn from reading our books.
We do.
Yeah.
So that's our April book. In May, we will have Christine Husum, who is a writer of mysteries. We know a little bit about Christine. Would you share that?
Well, I'm told, well, she served some time working with the Wright County Sheriff's Office, and I know that she's written Winnebago County Mysteries and the Snow Globe Mysteries. But I also heard, and I can't prove this, but I heard that she demonstrates that not everyone from Minnesota is Minnesota nice.
That's
now,
what I've heard.
I'll leave that judgment for later.
Absolutely.
But it's certainly intriguing.
Absolutely. And we should say at this point too, in the past, the Author Studio has been in person. We are practicing our social distancing, and we thought that not only would this help us to get the stories that people are telling out to people by having videotapes, but it also perhaps allows a larger audience who were not able to come on a specific day to meet an author. So we will continue doing this kind of taping.
Susan, I just would like to put in that Christine's newest book is called A Death in Lionel's Wood, and that she will certainly be talking about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep, you're welcome.
In June, we are having a joint event with Edina Reads. And that is scheduled actually for June 10th, and it's not published yet, so I did want to mention the date. But Barbara, this sounds so interesting. These will be spoken word artists and performers, authors, and we'll be doing that in the amphitheater in Centennial Lakes.
So that's going to be outside?
I think that's going to be an outside venue.
Wow.
So
that's a great venue.
it is a great venue, and we can hopefully have a lovely June evening. It will be starting at 6 o'clock, I believe, or 6:30. And we will have people coming in to hear a variety of spoken word artists. And we're so happy to be partnering with Edina Reads. Edina Reads has brought many authors to Edina and to neighboring communities. So I think this will be a wonderful event. We haven't figured yet what the interview process will be for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
I think it's going to be, my intention is that it's interesting, compelling, and good viewing.
Yep. And again, very timely. You mentioned Amanda Gorman.
Yes.
I think that
Yes.
has sparked a lot of us. Not only were her words impressive and impactful, but her delivery, her presentation as a
Absolutely.
performing artist really was very much a part of how we think of her now. And I think we'll find that in our June event as well.
And I think that what she has done is, and particularly a young woman of color, has brought poetry
Yes.
back to the national conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes poetry is seen in a different light, and I know many poets and have friends who are poets, and I think that they have been lifted up, shall we say,
I think so.
by this new poetry.
voice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a new voice.
absolutely.
Yes, that's good.
Absolutely.
Good word there.
All righty. So we want for sure to have people put that June 10th date on their calendars.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I'm hoping that we will hear from you, the viewers, with not only suggestions for possible authors. We're focusing on Minnesota authors, but also give us suggestions for questions we can ask. We are going to be open. We want this to be a part of the community, and we want you to feel that you are a part of the conversation, even though you might not be sitting right here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for bringing that up.
Yes.
Would you like to share how people can view these tapes?
Yes, I just found out that they're going to be on YouTube/Edina TV. Now, YouTube can be seen all over the world, so that is super exciting. So for sure, you can do a search on YouTube/Edina TV, and we will be publicizing where it is available if, in fact, it's available in other arenas as well. So keep watching your Edina Communications.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we will try and do it on the Arts Center Facebook page,
Very good. Yes,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
or at least have the link there so people can find it there as well.
Yes, yes.
All righty. Barbara, do you have any last comments about, I know you're enthused about this, and so am I, and I love collaborating with you on so many things.
Yes.
Any last comments before we encourage people to be part of this?
Well, I hope that we can stand on Colin Nelson's shoulders and
Thanks to
lift
Colin.
this conversation up to be to include more people and to have. We had interaction. Obviously, I was always in the front row because I'm a front row kind of a gal. I was always enjoyed the participation of the
Right.
questions to the authors, which brought, I mean, really it could have gone on for another hour probably, but that's why I'm really interested in having people in the community, whether you live in Edina or wherever you live, to be in touch with us.
And we will certainly make books available for people to purchase as we talk about them or purchase in advance of a talk, and we'll let you know how that's going to happen. Barbara, I can't tell you how much fun this is today and is going to be going forward.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your participation and your eagerness to be part of this.
I am super excited. I think you know that.
I do. And I will say to viewers, thank you so much for watching. Stay in touch and we will let you know when the next videos are available. And I hope you will enjoy some of the authors that we have going forward. Thank you.